It's 1995 in a Polaroid frame, the good old days. Some things never change, those times are gone, but I loved it just the same. Singing, ooh, if you wanna take me back to those days, one of these days, back to those days, 90 song. If you wanna take me back to those days, one of these days, back to those days, 90 song. All right. Good morning. Good morning. It's 6:33. It is August 11th. Feels a little bit like a sleepy summer Tuesday ahead of the CPI and the PPI, and nothing really happening in the Mideast except for oil having a day too. So it kind of feels like what the market should feel like, consolidating, waiting for some major economic news. But anyway, it's been a little easy to overtrade lately, so make sure you're not doing it. My name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com. Welcome to the 630 Club. I'm also the founder of Red Dog Mindset. We are doing every day this week. I'm even doing Friday for those who subscribe to the Red Dog Mindset above. I will be here all week. Anyway, for now, you have the S&P futures up 6, still building a bull type flag. As long as we stay above 767-ish, you would think that this bull flag could continue for maybe one more move above 776.85. I guess a lot of that's going to, be on the back of the CPI. If the CPI can come in light, maybe that helps with the inflation picture, helps with the Fed not raising rates, and helps, get above that spot. Alexa, stop playing. Hey, Alexa, play California Dreamin'. I like that song. So anyway, the Qs also kind of hanging out here. Qs have lagged. The Qs, you had this big quick move, but took back the moving averages, gapped above the downtrend line. And as long as it holds, 708, that's cool. If it could stay above 716-ish, even better. Even better for maybe a catch-up move in tech. It would be nice if tech could catch up and kind of, get involved. This way it'll wake up the market a little bit. So there are a lot of people asking me, like, Red Dog, let's talk. Red Dog, what do I think about the big deal that just happened between the major wirehouses and Nvidia? I will say it's interesting how they're really pulling out all the stops to back up the compute, back up the build, the infrastructure. Like how do they got Jensen and the most powerful people in the world to come together to do this deal? That's how important it is. They did say something about mortgage-backed securities. Remember, I'm old enough to remember the 2007, 2008, the hottest market ever. And they created those, the mortgages, and then they stripped the mortgages down, and then they created the new products. Then they sold it around the world. And then years later, all of a sudden, the housing market came in, and what was backing the mortgages fell apart, and that's what caused 2007, 2008. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but in a few years from now, that could be the problem, where that they create this private product, they start generating income, they start all making money, they piece it apart, they sell it to the public, and we better hope that AI infrastructure and the pricing and all this stuff, the backbone of whatever product they're making, doesn't cause a 2007, 2008 in 2031 or 2032 or sooner. So that just came to my mind, saying, hey, they better have this work. But again, that's a multi-year down the road story. So for this week, though, I think all we have to worry about is, will they repair Nvidia very fast? It's up 2 and change, which is nice because it came in fast. Will they come in and negate this candle and keep Nvidia here for what could be a move above 224.76? If they could take back a lot of yesterday's candle, for this week, I don't care about what could happen with this big major product in 2-3 years from now. We'll see the signals then. We'll have multiple, time frames working, whether it's a 401k, a 529, blah, blah, blah. Well, if I'm like 70 years old, I might have to reduce. But anyway, so I think what's very important today is if, Nvidia could open up 230 and go up 4 and negate this candle, or does it open up 230, go red and get below there? Then all of a sudden that would take out some of the momentum that is in the market, and there's not that much momentum in the market. That would just not be good for overall for the tape. So that's one thing we have to worry about. And then obviously, again, you have the CPI tomorrow, and the PPI on Thursday. So if Nvidia can hang in there today and negate yesterday's candle, and the CPI can come in a little light, hey, maybe you could have some 775 calls for Thursday or Friday, or maybe you can go out and have some Qs, which I have some Qs. I bought the 725s for later this week in case this wants to continue. Yeah, don't want to hold that paper. And yeah, like, plus in 2030, 2031, a lot of the resets happen in the mortgage world, right? Remember everyone refinancing their houses during 2019 to 2021 when rates were like 0, and you can get a 30-year for 3%, or a 15-year for 2.75%. So there's gonna be a lot going on in a bunch of years from now. But again, this week is this week. Do you get paid in August? Do you have to make the right decisions today? So those are the things that we're going to worry about. We're not going to worry about 2029 to 2031 right now. Scott, wanted to sell MU puts, could weeks out. We are, you know what, Carefine. So it's interesting. So a lot of people are very focused on MU and SanDisk. These names, like if this wasn't MU, we would not be so focused here, because you have MUs below all the moving averages. It's locked in a downtrend and showing relative weakness to the SPYs and the Qs. I get it's MU, I get it's SanDisk, and they had unbelievable moves when they were above everything. I would think, it could be tricky to sell puts, just because if the market does fail here, if this follows the regular relative weakness move, this is going to break 827 and it's going to break 770. So I'd rather see you, if you think there's going to be a move in MU, go out a few weeks and buy the 930 calls, or maybe buy the 925 calls, because if it clears this downtrend, it'll get better. But right now, MU is trapped. SanDisk is trapped. It's got a lower wedge, lower bear. This almost looks like a bear flag, kind of like what happened here before going lower. So I'd be careful. I actually, on our post earnings on SanDisk, I sold the $1,100 puts for $20. And on Friday, today's Tuesday, when it looked like the memory names were going to fall apart, I thought, holy cow, I'm going to get crushed selling puts, trying to be so cute in SanDisk. So yesterday, when they went down to 16 and 14, I collected a little, and I said I'd rather not do that, because I don't want to have a curveball. I don't want, if all of a sudden the market fails here, maybe the CPI is hot, maybe they don't like Nvidia today on that news, memory could come in, and if this 1163 breaks, I don't want to be selling puts there, because it is showing relative weakness. So I'm going to be on my toes. I'm going to wait for signals for them to get better, which they're not yet. It's just not the same. So I would be careful. So to answer your question, do I think you could sell them? Yeah, listen, if you want to sell the 720s because you think that, you don't mind buying MU if below there, okay. But what happens if it sees the 200-day like SanDisk did? So I would just be a little bit more careful with memory. That's what I'm trying to do. And once again, I do think Nvidia is a key to the day. How much of this candle does it take back? Into the weakness, I bought the 225s for Friday. So I would love for Nvidia for those major wirehouses to get by Nvidia and buy it and negate this candle a little bit. But we'll see. Yes, Netflix has been great. Netflix finally, hey, you did not have to take Netflix into earnings thinking that, hey, it's down from, it doesn't even look great. It's just a trade from 133 down. It gave you a low, gave you 65.09 post earnings. So the earnings weren't great. The guidance, who even know what they said, I don't remember, but it put its low in the first hour of the day. You could have been a buyer versus that low, and it's just crawling higher. Nice little active sequence. Maybe it wants to see the 100-day. Maybe it wants to see the 200-day. Right now, they like stocks like this, kind of like they like software right now. Palantir, we did absolutely fantastic. A lot of pro earnings gaps are paying people. I took actually the 135s into the print, and I made 4 times my money on the Palantir calls. But if you didn't take options, you could have bought versus 141. You could use the trader Stewie peg play, and it worked out very well. Everyone gives me the red dog reversal, so I'll give everybody, the other plays that they've coined. And the peg play was coined by Trader Stewie, so congratulations to him. But anyway, you could have bought versus or when it made a higher low, and you could have even traded it through 163.70. It followed the footsteps of Microsoft. Some people are like, hey, how could a stock go from crap to in play again? You get in play again, an active sequence could start again with the big pro earnings gap. And that's exactly what happened here, with Microsoft post numbers. That's one of the reasons why I took Palantir, is because Microsoft was bought instead of sold. You could have bought versus this gap or bought versus that gap. Now I don't want to see you buying it anymore. It's a little too extended there. Anyway, yes. So someone said, hey, remember your FRMI you had on when the small names were better? I do remember. I don't have any on. It looked like absolute death. We were playing this somewhere around here, and it's up $1. It was up more than that. Yes, some of these little names that have been thrown out the window, are decent names. They have a future ahead of them, but right now they're just not acting well. But this is up $1. So see if this wants to give you a gap to trade against if you think it's going to do okay. But this is when I stopped playing this here. And then I tried it again there, and I haven't even played it since. Oh, maybe I played it right there. But these little names are not working. Your DGXXs, your Poets, your this, your that. Even like something like Iron is a little tricky. But anyway, if you have some of these in the drawer, sometimes names like this could go in your drawer in your IRA because, like, hey, I like the future. I like this. I like that. But anyway, yes, Oracle also gave you a broken bounce, and it's turning into a little bit of a sequence. Right? Oracle gave you your first trade here. Remember when it broke the 8-day? It broke the 8-day at 222. If you get out of it at 222, you were able to buy 50% off when it took back the 8-day at 123. That's why we use the 8-day moving average, especially if you trade for momentum and you trade for a living. What's Oracle doing today? Oracle is up another 80 cents. Sometimes broken bounces can go to the 100 days. Sometimes they can go to the 200 days. So you want to map that out. But ultimately, if after getting rejected at the 8-day, literally since June 5th, you could have been a buyer right there, and it's been supported since. So that's, you go from a trade to a new active sequence that you could buy until it changes. SpaceX was awesome. SpaceX was my best power play last week on top of gold. We made a ton of money, ton. Like I couldn't even hold how much money. No, I'm kidding. We made good money. But again, I thought it was so damn easy. And I don't understand, who they have on TV these days. Everyone's like, oh, my God, SpaceX. I think they did, whatever they call it, a vote. Will SpaceX get below 100? And obviously they did the vote around here. Not up here. Here the vote would get above 300. Here the vote would get below 100. So it, to me, was an unbelievable setup where I'm like, you know what? I traded Facebook. I traded when Barron said it would be $10 because experience does matter. So does seat time. So we were last week selling the $95 puts for $3 and the $90 puts for $240. And I bought the stock as a power play at 110. And guess what? We got out of it yesterday above 135. This was a great 3-day trade. I just don't understand who they have on TV anymore. I don't really go on TV as much anymore. I'd rather do the 630 Club with 5,000 of my friends and talk and give you guys levels and give you 20 real minutes versus a 3-minute, FaceTime video with a 20-second soundbite. Anyway, I do go on Fox Business here and there, but I'm just saying, you can't rely on the TV sets, rely on your process plan. And there are really good people on X that, do give you really good content. Just be careful that you understand why they're doing it and how they're doing it. But anyway, this was really good. I almost bought it back. I was thinking we could buy back 126-ish. That's where I was going to sell some puts and buy it back. It didn't happen. Right now, this morning, it's only down $1.19. So this is trading better. SpaceX is definitely trading better. A lot of people caught short. A lot of people got stopped out. You got to learn how to deal with situations like this. Someone's like, well, what about the next lockup? I'm like, well, can't worry about the next lockup yet. It's August 11th. That lockup's August 21st. That's 10 days away. The world could be a lot different. Also it depends. Does it rally up to 150 where it broke down from by the next lockup and then have a bounce and it's not as oversold going into the next lockup? And then everyone's like, oh, it's going to rally on this lockup. And then the next lockup, it pulls back because it just came from 105 to 150. So kind of like earnings, like where did it come from and where is it and what's the expectations when you get to that binary event? But this was really good. This made my week. It put a smile on my face. It also helped with Tesla a little bit. I'm actually in Tesla still a little bit. I know Tesla's broken, but my little trader voice is telling me that Tesla, that's been very broken, is going to be testing this gap at some point. So I did buy some Tesla options, the 340s last week for this Friday. It probably doesn't get there by this Friday, but it might. It's Tuesday. And then I bought the stock on the pull-in, and I'm still in it. I would think if this can get above 333, it is broken. It's very broken. There's not much until the gap, and sometimes you want to fill a little bit. So I do think Tesla is just a cash flow active trade for me. Doesn't have to be for you, and it might not be. I'm just putting it down. Yeah, Rocket Labs I didn't touch. ASTS I didn't touch. Rocket Labs I sold puts down here. Some guys traded the name and got long here, and then we never take stock into numbers. So the question is, what's Rocket Lab going to do? I might look at it. It's down 5 at 74.50. So where's 74.50? 74.50 is, like right around here. You would think it would want to kind of hold. But again, this was your buy. I sold puts, made a lot of money selling puts, and then from 65 to almost 80 something. That's a decent broken bounce, and it is broken. These names are broken. This broke right here at 134. ASTS also broken. Maybe it holds a 66. I'll look at it. I'm not in either one. So anyway, let's take a look at ASTS. ASTS is only down 84 cents, which isn't a lot. They did reiterate their schedule of launches. It's not really an earnings play. Maybe from 133 down, it didn't bounce enough where today ASTS goes, from red to green and hangs here, and then it starts getting better. But for now, ASTS has given us a lot of great trades, made us a lot of money the last few years. I did not take it into the print. I don't have options, so I will look at it today. Scott, I did really well with the calls on the trade. Look at Apple now, have to trade these. Apple got a downgrade by Jefferies yesterday, and what's it doing now? Now it's up 80 cents. Apple's kind of dead money, though. I'll just say Apple, for now, I hate calling Apple dead money, but Apple was awesome up until 344 Red Dog reversal, and then wasn't enough. I guess you could be long now versus this higher low of 304.63. There was some news that they actually are coming out with that phone that Jeffrey said they weren't. I don't even think the clear phone was the phone that's exciting. I think the foldable phone is the phone that's exciting. It still has a hole in the chart. So maybe you could be long versus 304 and can get a little bit better. That's fine. I kind of think Amazon's a little bit better than the other ones. Amazon, you have a pro gap here. Remember, we took it into earnings, not the stock. We did a call spread because we don't take stock into earnings if we trade real time for a living. We took the 245s by 257s. I made 9 points on, and I risked 3. That was really good. Some guys are long versus 262. If you're super active, I say you could be long versus 270. If this market's any good and is going to want to continue in the next week or two in August, I would think, it takes out 287. So this to me is a better setup than Apple, but we'll see. Anyway, can you share your thoughts on Target and IBB? I haven't really been that active in the XBI. The bios have been pretty good. Last time I talked about it, I said it looks like it's over for a little bit, and then it came back and tested the 50-day. I would say it's looking a little bit better. If you wanted to think that this is going to make a new high or the bios are going to go again, you have to do a lot of homework on bios if you're going to be in them. You now could be long the XBI. This was the last time we talked about the really good buy. You could be long and put your stop right here. Put your stop at 152. 152. Make it very simple. If this wants to make a new high, if the XBI wants to get above whatever this was, which was 165.68, I'm framing the trade. That's what I do for the alpha team. That's what I do for T3. That's what I do for my dogs. I'm doing it for you. You could be long versus 152, and maybe it works back towards 165. It just worked off a really big move. So it's fine. But someone else said O&DS. I'll leave you with that. The drones, right? You've had a lot of really good moves in the drone names, but it's been time and place. I remember when ONDS went from like $2 to 10, pulled in, then went to 15. They sold the earnings, they sold the good news. Tried again, they sold the good news here. Now with earnings coming out on August 13th, which is in 2 days, has it put enough consolidation to take it? I think the risk reward is better. Stocks below 10. It's been accumulated for a while. I would think the U.S., United States, and are going to have to rebuild their stockpile of missiles and drones because we've been in war for a while. If the Mideast conflict ends in the next week or month, will that mean that it'll be a sellable event for these guys until the next war? I don't know. That's the question, but I think the risk reward here is fine. You buy the $10 calls, and maybe you make some shekels for Friday. Usually they like to be very bullish on the conference call and stuff. So I would think that this is worth a try. If it goes to 11 or 12, you make some money. I might even do it. It's only 9.24. Some guys like Swimmer. This is the Ukrainian technology, which is proven to doing really well. It was a great IPO too. Gave you a move to 83. So, it's also tight down here. So will they have new purchase orders out there because it's been a drone warfare fight? Maybe. I think that the risk reward of buying ONDS is okay. ONON, I did not take ONON into numbers. Some guys say, Redler, look how good this looks. To me, it just wasn't worth it. We're in a little trickier market, and I know it's coming a lot. Where's ONDS? And not ONDS, on cloud this morning. Wow, it's down 6. Geez. That's why you don't fall in love with names. I haven't bought a pair of OnClouds in a year. I remember a year ago I bought the black ones, the blue ones. I bought even the ones that had a little bit of a lift to give me an inch or two, and I haven't bought sneakers in such a long time. Not saying I'm like, the channel check, but either has Chase. Chase hasn't bought sneakers. So, and I think some people are buying Nikes again. So anyway, there was a time and place when this was awesome. Remember when I was fighting with Portnoy because he said that the stock market's a casino and anyone can make money, even a monkey. And I told him that he's a jerk, that he's glorifying gambling and he's ruining the youth of America. And then we fought. But then anyway, I gave him this as a winner way back here, and he made $1 million. And then we became friends. We're not really friends, but anyway, he does stick up for the Jewish people, which I like. I'm Jewish. If you don't like the Jewish people, then you can be mad at me, but you should like everybody, no matter who they are. Everyone should get a chance, depending on if they, who they are, even that whatever race, creed, this, that, religion. So anyway, if you took this, it is what it is. It didn't have a big move prior, so hey, maybe you could buy into a bigger support, but I have no interest. You want Target? Last one, Target. Look, Target. It's funny how they change. This got crushed. I remember when they're like, Target's over, and now it's been in another sequence. Yeah, it's nice. You can't be upset about this. Just trending along above the 821 day. Make sure that continues. Anyway, I'm going to leave you on the SPYs. We'll see what happens here. Nice bull flag. It would be nice. Sometimes the market moves very fast and it's hard to catch. That's what people are a little upset about, right? Like, hey, look what happened on Fed Day. Fed Day, they closed on the dead lows. You had one day to cover shorts and get long for this big move, fast move up. So that does happen fast. That's why you have to be prepared and jump on things fast. And then what happens is you get a nice little consolidation where everyone's like, all right, we just adjusted, letting the moving averages catch up. And then everyone plays for that additional move, and then that additional move doesn't happen. So it would be nice if Nvidia could repair today and we can get a light CPI and make one more move towards 800, because that's really where the measured move is. But we shall see. And same thing with the Qs. It would be nice if we could hold 716, go a little sideways, take out 728, and work our way higher. I like to trade active longs. I like to have a ton of things on, massage them to. Some of you guys are like, that's not nice for me. I want it to fail. I want to get short. I want things to get crushed. If that's you, that's you. It does happen every now and then. But I like to be actively bullish, and when the market's conducive for a lot of risk, I can make a lot of money, and so could my community. But for right now, it's August 11th. Sometimes a little less is more, and we come in with our expectations down, so maybe we could be pleasantly surprised. All right, guys, have a great day. If you love the 630 Club, you should subscribe on X to the Red Dog Mindset. You can get Whiteboard Weekend. You can get the 2520. You'll never lose the 630 Club. And I also started um, a once a month Ask Me Anything webinar where only subscribers could log in. We do everyone together, and you could ask me anything in the world. So there's a lot that goes into it for just $10 a month. $10 a month, you can get all of the Red Dog. If you don't think I'm worth $10 a month, that's cool too. I've spent $5 a day on an iced coffee. Some people are like, Red Dog, you're lazy. Why don't you just brew a coffee and bring it with you and save $5? So if you want to just be in the public Twitter and not do everything else, you know what? Maybe one day that might not be there. But anyway, with that being said, Nvidia is up $2, as I do think this is important today. You know, huge situation yesterday with the most influential wirehouses and people around the world backing them. So you would think they want to try and keep Nvidia acting well, not sell this. And if they do, they do. So we'll see how it goes. Later, guys.